In the vast, silent depths of space, where stars flicker like distant promises, a single ship races against time, a black shadow cutting through the darkness. This isn't just any vessel. It carries the last hope of humanity, a fragile ember in a galaxy consumed by chaos and alien conquest. Out here, far from Earth's familiar skies, humanity's legacy hangs by a thread, written in the blood spilled across countless battles against merciless enemies who see humans as nothing more than pests to be eradicated. The story we're about to dive into isn't just about space fights or alien invasions. It's about survival, resilience, and the fierce spirit that refuses to die. The Black Ship is more than metal and engines. It's the symbol of a final stand, a desperate fight to protect what's left of a species pushed to the edge. The crew aboard this ship are ordinary people, soldiers, scientists, and dreamers, each carrying the weight of humanity's future on their shoulders. They've faced horrors no one back home could imagine, and yet they fight on, because giving up isn't an option when your very existence is at stake. What makes this story truly gripping is not just the battles, but the choices these humans must make. When faced with enemies unlike any they've encountered before, creatures that seem to bend the rules of nature itself, the crew must question everything they thought they knew about war, loyalty, and sacrifice. The stakes aren't just survival. They're the meaning of humanity itself. Will they cling to hope? Or will the darkness consume them all? As the Black Ship hurtles towards its unknown destination, whispers of betrayal and unexpected alliances swirl in the cold corridors. Among the crew, tensions simmer beneath the surface, old wounds reopening even as new threats loom larger than ever. Every decision could be the difference between life and death, and the line between friend and foe begins to blur. Who can be trusted when survival demands impossible sacrifices? And what will they discover in the cold void that might change everything they thought they knew? This is a story of courage and fear, of light struggling against the vast shadow of extinction. It's about the final, desperate fight for humanity's place in the universe. A stand that will be remembered long after the last battle is fought, written in the blood of aliens who never saw it coming. But as the tension builds and the unknown draws nearer, one question hangs heavy in the air. Will the Black Ship's legacy be one of victory, or the last echo of a forgotten race? Get ready to join this harrowing journey, because what happens next will leave you on the edge of your seat, and the story is far from over. The Black Ship drifted through the endless blackness, its dark hull scarred from countless skirmishes, each dent and burn telling a story of survival against overwhelming odds. Inside, the air was thick with tension, not just from the outside dangers, but from the weight of what this mission meant. This wasn't just a fight for territory or resources anymore. It was a fight for the very soul of humanity. Months ago, the galaxy was a different place. Humans had just begun to step beyond their solar system, curious and hopeful, eager to explore new worlds. But hope is fragile in the vastness of space. It wasn't long before they encountered something far more terrifying than they had imagined. The aliens, ancient and ruthless, came with technology that made human weapons look like toys. Entire colonies vanished in the blink of an eye, swallowed by an enemy that seemed unstoppable. What started as skirmishes turned into a full-scale war for survival. The Black Ship's crew had witnessed these horrors firsthand. They were the last line of defense after every other fleet had fallen. Some of the crew had lost families, some had lost faith, but none had lost the will to fight. Every member carried their own scars, some visible, many hidden deep inside. There was the pilot who once dreamt of peaceful stars but now flew through war zones without hesitation. The scientist who had dedicated their life to understanding the alien technology, hoping to turn it against its creators. And the captain, a person shaped by hard choices, whose steady gaze rarely betrayed the storm inside. The ship was headed to a place no one really understood, A mysterious signal had been detected coming from the farthest edge of known space. It wasn't a distress call or a demand for surrender. It was something else, something that pulled at the crew's curiosity and fear all at once. Was it a trap? Or a last chance at salvation? No one could say for sure. But the captain had made the call to investigate. It was a gamble that could either save humanity or end it. As the ship drew closer to the source, strange things began to happen. Systems flickered. Shadows seemed to move just beyond sight, and quiet whispers of doubt crept through the corridors. The crew found themselves wondering if the enemy was closer than they thought, or if something far more dangerous was waiting in the darkness. Trust grew thin, and every glance over the shoulder felt like it could be the last. In the silence between battles, conversations turned to stories of the past, tales of lost worlds, vanished fleets, and the origins of the alien threat. Some believed the enemy had once been human, twisted by time and war into something unrecognizable. Others thought the aliens were part of a larger cosmic design, forces that had ruled the stars long before humanity ever dreamed of them. These stories only deepened the mystery, making the crew question not only who they were fighting, but why. The black ship itself seemed almost alive, carrying the ghosts of every soul lost in this endless war. Its dark metal hull held secrets, encrypted messages, and the echoes of countless battles. Yet, despite all the fear and uncertainty, hope flickered like a fragile flame. It was hope that kept the crew moving forward, that made them brave the unknown even when the cost was everything. But the closer they got to the signal's origin, the clearer it became that this mission was more than a simple rescue or reconnaissance. It was a crossroads, a moment where everything could change, for better or worse. The crew could feel it in their bones, a tension that tightened with every mile traveled, every silent moment shared. The black ship's legacy was about to be written, but whether in triumph or tragedy, no one could yet say. The final stand was coming, and with it, the truth hidden in the blood of aliens and humans alike. What they would find at the end of this journey was still a mystery, waiting in the cold, waiting to be revealed. The closer the black ship moved toward the signal, the more the crew felt the invisible weight of uncertainty pressing down on them. Inside the cramped corridors, whispers grew louder, not of the alien threat outside, but of doubt and suspicion within. Some questioned the captain's decision to chase this mysterious beacon, wondering if it was a trap designed to lure them into a deadly ambush. Others clung to hope, believing this signal might be the key to turning the tide of the war. One of the ship's engineers, a quiet but sharp mind, had been working around the clock to keep the ship's damaged systems running. She had noticed strange fluctuations in the ship's sensors, glitches that seemed to come from nowhere, faint but persistent. She wasn't sure if it was a technical fault or something more sinister, but the idea of an enemy hacking into their systems made the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end. Could the aliens be closer than they realized? Or was there another presence aboard the ship, hidden in the shadows? Meanwhile, the communications officer was struggling to decode fragments of the signal itself. Unlike the harsh war cries or battle commands they were used to intercepting, this message was cryptic, almost like a riddle. It hinted at an ancient secret, something buried deep in the fabric of the galaxy, a secret that might explain why the war had started in the first place. If they could understand it, maybe humanity could gain an edge. But the message also warned of consequences, words that chilled even the bravest hearts. What price would they pay for uncovering truths meant to stay hidden? Below deck, a small group of soldiers gathered quietly, their faces grim. Some had fought alongside the captain for years, sharing victories and losses, while others were newer recruits, still trying to make sense of the endless conflict. Tensions were rising between them. The veterans saw the younger soldiers' doubts and fears and worried they might falter when the real fight came. The newcomers, in turn, saw the old guard's hardened cynicism and wondered if hope was even possible anymore. It was a fragile balance, one that could snap at any moment and leave the crew divided when unity was most needed. Adding to the turmoil was the unresolved mystery of one crew member whose behavior had become increasingly erratic. Once a trusted navigator, they had started disappearing during shifts, avoiding contact and spending long hours near the ship's outer hull. Some whispered about possible alien influence or mind control, while others feared something more human, a betrayal born from desperation or fear. The captain had kept quiet about it, but the tension in the command center was unmistakable. As the ship approached the source of the signal, the alien presence felt less like a distant threat and more like a looming shadow, stretching over every decision and every breath taken. The crew knew that once they crossed this threshold, there would be no turning back. The battle ahead wouldn't just be about weapons and tactics. It would be a test of will, trust, and what it truly meant to be human in a galaxy ruled by strangers. Every glance at the dark expanse outside the viewport reminded them of what was at stake. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the right to write their own story, to define their own legacy. But with the enemy closing in and the mysteries of the signal deepening, the question lingered. Was this the beginning of salvation or the final chapter of humanity's fall? The black ship held its breath as it crossed the invisible line, the unknown waiting just beyond. The legacy of this last human stand was about to be tested in ways no one could predict, and the cost would be written in blood. The black ship moved deeper into the unknown, the eerie silence outside broken only by the steady hum of the engines and the faint, nervous chatter over the comms. Every crew member felt it, the growing tension like a tightening noose around their collective throat. The signal had led them here, to this shadowed corner of space where no human had dared to tread before. Now, as the distance closed, so did the gap between hope and fear. Inside the command center, the captain stared at the flickering screen showing the ship's approach toward an enormous dark structure looming ahead. It was unlike anything they had encountered. Vast and alien, its shape shifting subtly as if alive. The signal had come from this place, a fortress or maybe a tomb, but its purpose was a mystery. What lay within could hold the key to ending the war, or ensure it was humanity's final battle. The crew's unease was palpable. The pilot's hands were steady on the controls, but the usual quiet confidence was replaced by a sharp focus, born of uncertainty. The scientist frantically ran analyses on the strange energy readings pouring in, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and fascination. This structure wasn't just a relic. It pulsed with a power that seemed both ancient and dangerously alive. Whispers of the crew members' strange behavior reached the captain again. Their absence during critical moments, their secretive excursions near the hull. Now, it all felt connected. Was it possible that something inside the ship had changed? The captain knew the fragile trust among the crew was their greatest weapon, but also their greatest weakness. If that trust broke, the enemy wouldn't need to strike. They'd already have won. Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared, a sharp, urgent warning slicing through the tension. Sensors picked up movement around the dark structure, shadowy figures emerging from hidden ports. The alien presence was no longer distant. The enemy was here, waiting, ready to strike. The crew rushed to their stations, hearts pounding. The final stand was beginning. Inside the dimly lit corridors, soldiers checked weapons, faces set with determination and dread. The youngest among them swallowed hard, trying to steady their breath. This was the moment they had trained for, yet nothing could prepare anyone for the overwhelming weight of facing an enemy that seemed to bend reality itself. Every second felt stretched thin, the line between life and death razor sharp. The communications officer frantically tried to send a distress signal back to Earth, but the connection was dead, cut off by some unseen force. They were truly alone, cut off from any help or hope beyond this fight. The ship's energy flickered as the alien structure unleashed a pulse of power, disrupting systems and sending waves of static through the ship's network. In the chaos, the crew member whose behavior had been suspect reappeared in the command center, eyes glazed but voice steady as if under some strange influence. They whispered something about the truth and the price, words that only deepened the crew's fear. Was this person a victim or a threat? Could they still be trusted? The captain faced a brutal choice: focus on defending the ship and crew, or pursue the mysterious signal's promise of salvation, risking everything on a gamble that might either save humanity or end it all. The crew's fate hung in the balance, and with the enemy closing in from every side, time was running out. As the ship rocked from the first heavy strike, the crew braced for what came next. The black ship's legacy, the final human stand, was about to be forged in fire. But in the moments before battle erupted in full, one unspoken question haunted them all. Would their sacrifice be remembered or lost forever in the vast, unforgiving void? The black ship shuddered violently as the first impact rippled through its frame, sending alarms blaring and lights flickering in the dim corridors. The crew scrambled to maintain control, their training battling against the rising panic. But just when it seemed the enemy's assault was the ultimate threat, something unexpected happened. A second, more disturbing shock that no one saw coming. The ship's sensors suddenly picked up a strange energy surge, but this one wasn't coming from outside. It was inside. From deep within the black ship's core, where the crew had always felt safe, a pulse radiated outward, disrupting systems and causing strange fluctuations in the ship's gravity. The captain's eyes narrowed as reports flooded in. The alien structure wasn't just attacking them, it was somehow merging with their own vessel. The crew gasped in disbelief. How could the enemy invade their defenses from within? Was it a virus, a new kind of weapon? Or worse, had someone on board betrayed them in a way no one could have imagined? The idea tore through the ship's fragile morale like a knife. Amid the chaos, the crew member whose strange behavior had already raised suspicions suddenly collapsed near the command center, convulsing as if caught in some invisible grip. When they awoke, their eyes glowed faintly, and their voice held an eerie calm, as if they were no longer fully human. They whispered cryptic warnings about the symbiosis and the next phase. The captain stared, heart pounding. Had this person become a vessel for the very force they were fighting against? Meanwhile, the scientist frantically analyzed data streaming in from the ship's core. She discovered that the alien structure wasn't just a fortress, it was a living network, able to infiltrate and rewrite technology, bending it to its will. The black ship was becoming part of this alien entity, piece by piece. If they didn't stop it, the line between human and alien would blur beyond recognition. The war wasn't just for territory or survival anymore, it was a battle for the definition of humanity itself. Tensions boiled over among the crew as fear gave way to desperation. The soldiers, once focused on external threats, now faced an enemy they couldn't see, a shadow lurking inside their own ranks and ship. Trust shattered like glass. Alliances shifted. The question wasn't just how to survive the alien assault, it was who, if anyone, was truly on their side. The pilot, usually calm and precise, voiced what many feared in whispers. If the ship becomes part of them, we won't just lose the war, we'll lose ourselves. That truth settled over the crew like a suffocating fog. Every system failure, every glitch, was a reminder that the battle was no longer just fought with guns or shields. It was fought in the mind, in the soul, in the very essence of what made them human. The captain faced a crushing decision. Should they attempt to sever the connection at the core, risking the ship's destruction but possibly saving their humanity? Or should they focus on fighting off the external alien forces, hoping to outlast this nightmare? The clock was ticking, the ship was transforming, and with every passing moment, the final stand grew more uncertain. As the alien structure's influence spread, strange visions haunted the crew. Memories not their own, whispers of a history long buried, and hints of an ancient war that had repeated itself across the stars. The legacy of the Black Ship was no longer just about survival. It was about uncovering a truth darker and deeper than anyone had dared imagine. With the Black Ship caught between external enemies and an internal force threatening to consume them all, the final battle was no longer just a fight. It was a race against time to save not just a crew or a ship, but the very soul of humanity itself. And as the shadows deepened, one chilling question hung in the air. Was this symbiosis an end or a new beginning? The Black Ship groaned under the weight of the alien invasion, both outside and within. The energy surges from the core grew stronger, threatening to rip the vessel apart, while enemy ships closed in, their dark silhouettes casting long shadows across the ship's battered hull. Inside the command center, the captain's face was grim but resolute. Time was slipping away, and the final stand was no longer a choice. It was a necessity. The crew scrambled, their movements sharp and focused despite the fear burning in their chests. The engineer, guided by frantic calculations, initiated a risky plan to isolate the ship's core from the alien network. It meant severing their connection to the very systems keeping the ship alive. It was a gamble. The Black Ship could fall apart or it could break free. There was no middle ground. The pilot adjusted the course, weaving the ship through the oncoming alien assault with precise maneuvers born from desperation and skill. Outside, flashes of energy and explosions lit the void as fighters engaged in a furious battle, each blast echoing the crew's determination to survive. Meanwhile, the affected crew member, now glowing with an otherworldly light, stood at the ship's center, a living bridge between human and alien. Their whispered warnings became clearer. The symbiosis can end, but only through sacrifice. The captain understood immediately. Someone had to sever the connection manually, plunging into the ship's heart where the alien influence was strongest. A volunteer stepped forward, someone who had lost everything to this war but still clung fiercely to humanity's hope. The crew watched in silent awe as they entered the core chamber, fully aware this might be their last mission. The ship trembled violently as the alien structure fought back, trying to consume the volunteer and, with them, the last spark of human resistance. Inside the core, the volunteer faced an overwhelming presence, voices of countless alien minds intertwining with their own memories, pulling at their sense of self. It was a battle not just of strength, but of will. They fought through waves of alien influence, holding on to the humanity that defined them, even as the darkness clawed closer. Back on the bridge, the crew held their breath. Then, with a sudden burst of energy, the ship's systems began to stabilize. The invasive pulses faded, and the alien network's grip loosened. The Black Ship's hull stopped trembling, and slowly, systems returned to normal. The volunteer emerged from the core, battered but alive, a symbol of humanity's unbreakable spirit. Victory was at hand, but the fight was not yet over. As the alien fleet retreated, broken and confused, a new signal pulsed through the ship's comms, one unlike any before. The captain opened it with caution, only to find a message that chilled the entire crew. You have survived the first wave, but the war is far from over. This galaxy belongs to many more than you know. The final twist hit like a cold wave. The alien threat they'd faced was just a fragment of a far larger force, an ancient cosmic web of civilizations locked in endless conflict. The Black Ship's legacy wasn't just about one battle. It was the beginning of a much greater struggle, one that would challenge everything humanity believed about its place in the universe. As the ship limped away from the battlefield, the crew looked toward the stars, uncertain of what lay ahead, but united by a single truth. Their fight for survival, their final human stand, was only the start of a legacy that would echo across the cosmos, written not just in the blood of aliens, but in the courage of those who dared to stand and fight. The Black Ship floated through the quiet aftermath of battle, its systems humming steadily as the crew began the slow process of repair and recovery. The weight of what they had endured hung heavily in the air, losses, sacrifices, and the bitter taste of knowing the war was far from over. Yet, amid the wreckage and weariness, a flicker of hope remained. They had survived the impossible and lived to fight another day. In the dim light of the command center, the captain addressed the crew, their voice steady but filled with the gravity of their journey. We faced darkness, both outside and within. We confronted what it means to be human, when everything tries to take that away. Today we proved that hope isn't just a word, it's a choice. One we make every time we decide to stand. The room was silent, but the resolve in every pair of eyes said more than words ever could. The volunteer who had risked everything to sever the alien connection recovered slowly, surrounded by those who had come to see them as a symbol of humanity's resilience. Their ordeal had been unimaginable, a battle fought not just in the stars but within their own mind and soul. They remained quiet for now, but their presence reminded everyone what the Black Ship's legacy truly meant: courage in the face of the unknown, and the unyielding spirit that defines humanity. As repairs progressed, the scientists shared new insights with the crew. Data that confirmed the alien network they'd encountered was only a fragment of a vast cosmic system. This knowledge was both terrifying and enlightening. The war was bigger than any one fleet or species, and the Black Ship's fight was a single chapter in a much larger story. But it was a story where humanity had a chance to write its own ending, to prove that even in the darkest corners of space, life could persist and grow. Trust among the crew slowly rebuilt. The suspicion and fear that had threatened to unravel them now gave way to understanding. The strange behavior of the affected crew member had been a symptom of the alien influence, but they were not lost, just another reminder of the cost of war and the fragility of the human mind. Healing wouldn't come quickly, but the first steps were being taken. The captain looked out the viewport at the stars stretching endlessly ahead. The Black Ship was battered but alive, carrying not just survivors, but a message, a legacy of resilience and hope that would travel far beyond this isolated battle. They had fought not just for survival, but for the future of humanity, for a chance to claim a place among the stars. As the ship set course back toward the heart of human space, the crew knew the challenges ahead would be immense, but they also knew something deeper, that the human spirit, tested and tempered in fire, could endure. They had faced the alien threat and the shadows within themselves, and they had chosen to stand. The war was far from over, but the Black Ship's final stand had forged a new beginning. In the endless void where countless civilizations clashed and faded, humanity had carved out its own story, one written in courage, sacrifice, and unbreakable hope. And as the stars welcomed them home, that story was just beginning to unfold.